go out and use a structured interview with them. Or maybe get them together as a group, because for one thing, you can drive yourself crazy because you don't know yet what the opposition is.
Get them all a dog.
Get them all a dog, yes. Great idea. But the point is that you're going to learn that from them. And everything you learn is going to be to your advantage. And you don't know what emphasis you have to put on which areas. What are people going to be, what are their concerns going to be? I mean, I know what my concerns are with dogs and sidewalks, okay? Now, is this their concern? And if that is, then the park should alleviate part of that, okay? And everybody will carry a little plastic bag on the leash as they're going to the park. But that, I would say include them too. Yeah, you have to include them too, because they could be a stopper, and you don't want stoppers. We had, this was one of the things going into this type of work that we had to deal with. I was discussing it earlier with John and Chad. I work a lot with, my last 12 years with FAO was in dealing with management systems for cooperative extension programs and advising government bureaucrats and stuff. Not as much fun as my first years. One of the things that we ran up against were middle managers. Tough nuts to crack. Because they had been the ones who said, Tom, this is the way you're going to do that program for the rest of your life, so just shut up and do it. Now, we're coming in, you know, all touchy-feely, and we're saying, Tom, how would you like us to tell you to do that program? And the middle manager is saying, wait a minute, that's my job. Stop right now. And we had to figure out what to do with those people. And we had to include them. In fact, this colleague of mine, Philip Townsley, and I were thinking of writing a book that said, as a middle manager, in a participatory environment, what is my job? Because the end result were the ones who were putting the input into the design of the program, not the middle manager. We never did write that book. We probably should have. But this is no different, because you have people who could, because of their proximity, because they're abutters to your park, have an awful lot of power. So you got to bring them in, at least to know what the concerns are, and then find out how, and ask them, what can I do to alleviate your concern? What would we? Yes, we. But that's the whole thing. What would you accept to make your concern less important? I think that's it. If it was me in your shoes, that's what I would attempt.
Relating to that, we just are reading, you guys read this last year? Mm-hmm. Triple Bottom Line. Remember the Penobscot Dam removal? Mm-hmm. We're talking about a 10 to 20 year process, so I would say, you know, bringing people in this broader, it's really important to take, if you can, and it runs contrary, I know, to my own desires to get things done quickly, have a long-term view, be very patient, and know that you're going to run up against stuff, and maybe you'll get a dog park in 2030.
For your robot dog.
It is. I used to tell my extension agents, I used to say, you know, time is very important. It's the supreme being's way of keeping everything from happening all at once.
So in our knowledge management classes, we were given a case of Buckman Laboratories, who pays a very large fee for a service that's web-based, where people can pool their questions, and then the questions are sorted. So they're paying the sorter to find the resources. So basically, it's a participatory knowledge bank, and yet that middle manager is the router, I guess, who can shift it. And in a web-based platform, you pay someone to do a service. In a non-web-based platform, the middle manager, once people have gotten together and alleviated whatever their concern was with folks they may have not done it for, you stakeholders, never mind. My question is, they all of a sudden realize, oh, I'm self-empowered. We didn't have to hire that guy. And then where is that middle manager's, you know, likely they could glean new places to bring folks together. But the profit margin or to sustain their role is what I'm starting to struggle with in my practice.
Yeah,
The roles change.
really, yeah, and it has to. We're right back to my example of the middle level bureaucrat. When by using these techniques we just took his job away. And what's he going to do? Now fortunately, in my case, the individual we had to work with was a civil servant. So his only real duties were breathing and watching the sun come up. He was still going to collect his monthly salary. But in the business world, that often is not the situation. When you don't have a task to perform, you're redundant. And that doesn't make people very happy. So now you've got someone on the other side of the fence from you. And in the business world, you know, I think that's just a cruel thing. This is a capitalist society we operate in.
Unless there's a way to find out
Yeah.
a new role.
Yes.
Change the system, the structure of the system.
Yeah.
How can you use this? I'm thinking about the fishing industry and
Uh-huh.
how you've got these two different sides that are just the fishing community, which is completely anti-regulation. And I've had discussions with them, and you can have a discussion with somebody in the fishing industry and then somebody not, and hear sort of completely conflicting information. So I think, my opinion, for example, is some in the fishing industry, the issue isn't what they're stating necessarily. There's a fear of livelihood loss, but they go towards ideas that they don't speak to that. They don't say I'm just afraid of losing my livelihood, but they say there's issues with regulations. How can you use participatory to help get past what people potentially think their issue is, to understand what the real challenges are?
Yeah, that is. You may have brought in one of the conundrums that cannot be solved. You know, I mean, this brings to mind the situation we had happen in the North Atlantic in the last decade, where we had, particularly the maritime provinces of Canada, where we had a very strong historical cod industry going up there with 50,000 people engaged in the industry, fishing. And we had them. And then we had the scientific community that was saying these stocks are being overfished. And you had the fishermen that were saying, look, I go out there, I'm bringing back 22 bushels of tow. I've been bringing back 20 to 25 bushels of tow for 40 years.